We return now to the confrontation between the U.S. and Iran. Earlier, we reported that Iran seized at least one ship in the strategic Strait of Hormuz, roiling the already turbulent waters of the Persian Gulf. As he left the White House this afternoon, the president again had tough words for Tehran.
Iran is in big trouble right now. Their economy is crashing. It's coming to a crash. They're trying to bring soldiers back home because they can't pay them. A lot of bad things are happening to them, and it's very easy to straighten out, or it's very easy for us to make it a lot worse.
Before Mr. Trump spoke and before news came of the ship seizures, I sat down with Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif. He was one of the principal negotiators of the 2015 nuclear deal with the U.S. and other world powers, which President Trump pulled out of last year. Now Zarif is one of the public faces of the Islamic Republic's pushback against the United States and its so-called maximum pressure campaign of renewed and increased sanctions aimed at forcing Iran back to the negotiating table. We spoke at the residence of Iran's ambassador to the UN in New York. Minister Zarif, thank you very much for talking with us.
Good to be with you again.
Let's start with the downing yesterday by the United States of the Iranian drone in the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump says that this was just the latest in a series of provocative and hostile acts by Iran. Is that how you see it?
Well, first of all, to the best of our information, we didn't lose any drones yesterday. So it doesn't look like that they shot one of our drones. Maybe they shot one of their drones. The reports that they shot probably somebody else's drones. But provocative, even if it were our drone, we are in our own neighborhood. The U.S. naval vessel is about 6,000 miles away from its shores. So I would ask you, who's being provocative?
The Trump administration official line is that the U.S. is not looking for war with Iran. Do you believe that?
No, we didn't come to the Gulf of Mexico. They came to the Persian Gulf. Now they have to watch that they should not undermine our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, or our security. And then we won't have a war.
You've been saying this week, Mr. Minister, that if the U.S., that Iran may be prepared to change the course of your uranium enrichment.
No, we're not. We're not. We have an agreement that we negotiated with the United States. It doesn't matter which government of the United States, because the outside world considers the government sitting in Washington representing the United States. There is a provision in the current agreement that is in 2023, we're supposed to ratify the additional protocol which requires us to put all our facilities under UN inspections for life. That would be permanent. And it would also require the United States to lift its sanctions by Congress permanently. That is a provision that we already negotiated. He wants to do better. He can implement that provision right now, and rest assured that Iran will never produce nuclear weapons. If that is his objective, he can do it now. 2023. We are prepared to bring that forward. We need to go to our parliament. Our parliament needs to ratify it. We could bring it forward so that President Trump could make history by making sure that the relations between the two countries would change forever.
So, but there's no indication right now that President Trump will do that.
Because the motto is, what's mine is mine, what's yours is negotiable. That won't work.
But my point is, there's no indication right now that President Trump is inclined to do that, unless you have information that we don't have right now.
You see, I'm not interested in what he is inclined to do. I'm interested in what the United States must do as a responsible player in the international scene. I'm sure President Trump wants to leave a legacy of a law-abiding country, not a country that breaks treaties.
Mr. Minister, even Americans who believe with you that the Trump administration was wrong to withdraw from the 2015 agreement ask, why is Iran enriching uranium beyond the caps? Why does Iran need to do this?
We don't need to do that. We have a provision in the agreement that if one side does not fulfill its obligations, the other side may, within the agreement, reduce its commitments. If the United States and if the Europeans don't fulfill their obligations, then we have a right. That's a remedy. Because, you know, the nuclear deal was not based on trust. The nuclear deal was based on total mistrust. We did not trust the other side. The other side did not trust us. Let's be fair.
But the American people look at Iran, they hear President Trump saying this is the world's greatest threat right now, your country. They hear that you are enriching uranium, you're on the way to nuclear weapons. Why should they relax? Why should they not be worried?
Had we wanted to build a nuclear weapon, we would have built it during the time that we paid for it. From 2005 till 2013, we actually paid many times in international isolation, in international pressure, in sanctions. But if he says we are the greatest threat to the United States and to international peace, just ask him who is bombing Yemen, who is imprisoning the Prime Minister of Lebanon. So if you want to look for malign behavior, if you want to look for a threat, you look at Saudi Arabia.
You mentioned Yemen. Clearly that terrible war has been going on for years. The Saudis are involved. The Houthi rebels have a connection clearly with Iran. We now know that the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, are withdrawing most of their forces. Could this be a moment for some sort of breakthrough there?
Well, we've had many moments to end the war in Yemen. Saudis unfortunately believe that they could win this war militarily within weeks. We can end it now. It just takes one cognitive transformation. This war cannot be won militarily. I mean, we have diplomatic relations with the UAE, so we're prepared to meet them. We're prepared to meet the Saudis. We can meet any time. It just requires an acceptance of the reality that we all need to provide our own security regionally, and we cannot purchase security from outside.
And what does that mean practically?
Practically means that we need to work together rather than work against each other.
And could this be a moment for that to happen?
It can, and I certainly pray for it.
Is there some tangible evidence that
Not yet. Not with Saudi Arabia.
But you're saying as of this moment, there's no movement, tangible movement in that direction?
Because unfortunately, they see that the United States even supports them literally with murder. They can get away with murder and still get the support of the United States. And we all saw that, how it happened.
You just said that Iran is prepared to sign a non-aggression statement. At the same time, we know that Iran is still supporting, working with a number of armed, non-state groups, militias across the region. Why is this continuing? Why does Iran need to work with these groups that are creating violence in so many countries?
Actually, we work with groups that are defending themselves. It's the United States allies who are working with groups that promote violence. We work with people, support people, as everybody should, who are defending their territorial integrity, who are fighting occupation, who are fighting for an aggression.
Two other things I want to ask you about. One is Syria. Why is Iran still supporting the Syrian regime, which has killed its own people, used chemical weapons on it?
We have said time and again that we are in Syria cooperating against ISIS. The decision about who should rule Syria is not ours, is not yours. That decision is solely a decision that should be made by the people of Syria. The United States wanted to determine that Bashar will not be running in the election. But if you believe that he is such a butcher that is killing his people, then why do you mind if he runs in an election? He would be voted out by the people. You should only make sure that you have a free and fair election. And that's what we've been calling for.
You believe Mr. Assad will allow a democratic process to go forward, a free and fair elections in that country?
I think he will, and I think we all should help him.
You think the evidence of what he's done to his own people doesn't undermine that?
His own people will decide. It's not for us to decide. It's for his own people to decide. And I believe always, at the end of the day, people are the best judge.
But won't he be choosing who participates in the process?
We can make sure that the process is free and fair. That we said from the beginning, and we continue to say that.
Iran is now holding at least 6 Americans, detaining 6 Americans. Why is Iran holding them?
The United States is detaining many Iranians who have not committed any crime. The United States is pushing other countries to detain Iranians who have only violated U.S. sanctions. I called for a comprehensive exchange. Unfortunately, the United States is not prepared to do that. Iran showed its good faith by releasing one. The United States has not reciprocated. So I think the problem is in Washington, not in Tehran.
What will it take to win the release of these Americans?
Them. That's how I can get involved. Because I cannot get involved if it's just a one-sided situation, because our judiciary is independent and they will make their own decision. But if there is an exchange, then I can intervene.
Finally, if there's one simple message you want the American people to know from the government of Iran, what is it?
The government of Iran does not want conflict. All we want is for nobody to intervene in our affairs. I think that's something that that American people could easily understand. The Americans did not want others to intervene in their affairs. That's why they had the American Revolution. We do not want others to intervene in our affairs. That's all.
Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, thank you very much.
Thank you.